Hello and welcome to moinframe. I'm Justus and today we are looking at how we can integrate Vite.js and LightningCSS to our Kirby installation. Let's be honest, no build tool is often the best way to go. It will be stable for the next years, we just have CSS and JavaScript and our PHP HTML that we are rendering through Kirby. Especially with modern browser support and modern JavaScript and CSS features, this approach is pretty appealing. But when you're working on larger code bases, you want to use Tailwind or you want to add TypeScript to your project, this is where you need a build pipeline before the browser consumes your assets. And one of the best tools to use here, in my opinion, is Vite.js. Vite has been around for a few years now. It's version 6 right now. It was created by Evan You, that's the founder of Vue.js, and it's pretty fast and easy to use. Especially if you compare it with older installations using Webpack, the Vite config is very much easier to use. It uses native ES modules during development, that's why it's pretty fast, and it has features like hot module replacement where you see instant changes in your website without reloading the browser. So today we will integrate Vite in our Kirby Starterkit and we will add LightningCSS as a CSS parser to get the latest support for CSS features. Alright, let's get started. So I'm using the Kirby CLI to install the Kirby Starterkit. If you don't know what the CLI is, have a look at the video description. I will put it there. It's a pretty neat tool. You get the Kirby command in your terminal and you can make all kinds of stuff like create new projects and also create snippets, templates, whatever. But today we are using it to create a new starter kit for us. I will install the starter kit by using the Kirby install kit command and say starter kit. It will ask us for a folder name, which will be, let's call it starter. And it will also just install the starter kit. All right, now we can move to our folder starter and open up our code editor. Cool, so what you're seeing here is the starter kit from Kirby. It comes with predefined content, which is pretty great, and all the things you need to get going. Let's open up the terminal. So at first we will verify that our installation is working using the composer start command. This will create a development server. And we can open it. Cool. So this is working. We have a starter kit running with our internal PHP server. Very nice. Let's close it down. And we need to prepare some assets before we can use Vite in our project. When you start using Vite with Kirby, you will most likely use the manifest.json file. So Vite works in a way that it compiles all assets using like random string attached to the file name, which are used for cache busting. And you don't include the file directly that's built using Vite, but you will need some package that reads out the manifest.json file, which basically is a map for the files generated by Vite. For that, we will use a great package by Lukas Kleinschmidt, which is kirby-laravel-vite, which basically wraps the Laravel-vite handler into a Kirby plugin. We install it using Composer. This plugin basically handles the PHP side in Kirby to read out the manifest.json and provide a pretty easy API to work with. But it does also need like a companion in Node.js or JavaScript world. To manage our front-end dependencies, I will use pnpm. It's basically a replacement for npm. It does have some advantages, but it's not mandatory to use it. You can use whatever flavor of package manager you like. So great about pnpm is if you're using the same packages in different projects, it will only have one copy because it does symlink the node modules. So it's pretty disk use friendly, I would say. So at first we will init pnpm in this project. It will just create a package.json file. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And it will just hold all the dependencies installed in our project. So you can compare it to the composer.json, which is the equivalent in PHP world. After initting the project, we will install Vite and the laravel-vite plugin. We will install it with a -d, so for development dependencies. If we navigate to our package.json, we can now see that laravel-vite plugin and Vite are both listed as dev dependencies. So because we are here right now, we can add the scripts that we will be using. So we want to have a build script, which just calls Vite build. And we will have a dev, which calls Vite. Now we need to make Vite aware where our assets are. So we will create a very easy Vite config file. To get some type support, you can import the define config function from Vite, and then the config is just a default export of this function. And in this function, you have an object and you can add different configuration options. So we create the plugins array. Now we import the installed plugin. Let's call it Laravel from the laravel-vite plugin. And we add it to the plugins array. So the Vite plugin comes with some configuration options. You have the input keyword, which is just an array of files you want to use as an input. You have the refresh, which is an array of files you define that refresh the whole browser. So this is used when you edit PHP files, which don't run through Vite, of course. You still want the browser to auto reload when you save. This is where you put the refresh. And then we have the public directory, which in our case is just the current folder. Let's put in the inputs. So those are the default assets coming with the Kirby Starterkit. They are located in the assets folder. There's a CSS and JavaScript folder. And we also add our refresh directories, which are the template and snippets folders. And you can use some global match patterns like double stars, which will result in all folders and files in this directory. Let's do the same for the snippets. And this will keep auto reloading when we edit our snippets. So let's run pnpm build to see what we get. And we actually get an error. This is because we did not set up the type module in our package.json. So let's do that and try again. All right, so now you can see all assets get transformed. We get a new build folder, which has our assets. All assets have random strings attached. This is used for cache busting. And we have this ominous manifest JSON file, which basically is a map for all assets. So you can see the input is marked as a key in this object. This is assets CSS, index CSS. And then there is a reference to the real file that is being output. So with every build, the manifest JSON file changes. And this is a reference how the real index CSS file is named. Now we need to tell Kirby to use these assets. Because right now, if we run the dev server again, we won't see any changes. Let's keep the dev server running and move in another tab to have the front end build. And as you can see, the front end of our dev system is not changing at all, but that will change now. And for that, we move to this side snippets folder into the header PHP file. And this is where you can find the import of our CSS files. And we'll change this to not use the files directly, but use our Vite plugin and the manifest.json. The way this works is pretty easy. You can just write Vite instead of CSS. So this Vite method gets input by the plugin we installed. The auto keyword won't work out of the box, so we need to remove this right now. But we can work our way around this because auto is looking for the current template and will output the associated file for the template, which we can manually call. We can say template is page template. And in here, since it's just PHP and strings, we can import the assets CSS templates. Oh, templates. And attach the template name .css file. And we also need to add our JavaScript, which just goes in here as well. Assets, JS, index.js. And we have the lightbox and prism.js. A quick break from future me because we missed an important step for the dynamic template assets. You need to prepend an @ sign to make those optional, because right now you can see I'm running into an issue where the template nodes does not have a corresponding CSS file and thus will result in an error. But if I reload it now, you can see it's working. So it's treating the assets as optional. And if we go to the browser and reload, we see no change. Well, that's pretty good. Let's see how our files are loaded. If we go to the index CSS file, we can see our build index CSS file. And maybe let's add some color here. Let's say HTML color red. Save and reload the page. And now we get the red font. So this is working. It's loading our manifest JSON and it uses the CSS files generated in our build folder. Cool. Now we start up our development service. So we go to our second terminal pane and we will say pnpm dev, which is our dev command. And this will start the development server of Vite.js. Reload the page and we can see our color is gone again because it does now reload the files from the assets again. Let's close our build folder and go to the CSS in the assets, which is the unminified CSS code. And we can add our CSS here, so HTML color red, and see if I save it, it will instantly change without me reloading the browser. So this is, pretty great. I think if we want to add a background color also, let's make it red. So you can work really quickly without ever leaving your code editor. That's pretty cool. And now let's see if our refresh is working. Let's go to site snippets header and remove the logo. So cut it out, save. And our browser is reloading. So this is quite instant. It's not that instant like the front end, but it's pretty easy to work here and add some text, save, and the website instant reloads and shows you the different result. Great. Let's explore some modern CSS now. One thing I really like about modern CSS that is not available in all browsers are custom media. So you can use the custom media keyword to define media queries, which are named. Let's call it viewport SM. And then you define your media query as normal, like min width 640. And you can add different kinds of media queries, like let's say MD, which will be, and let's do another one like LG, which will be at 2024 and up. To use this, you can just call add media and then your named media query, which is viewport LG. And then write your CSS that should be applied when the media query is matched. Let's stick with our great background color red example. And if we're reloading, you can see nothing changes, because if we look at the result, let's build it. Let's say pnpm build, open up our build folder, assets, index CSS, and use our search to find viewport. You can see the add custom media keyword is just present in the CSS. I mean, that's obviously what we are expecting to happen. But this doesn't work in all browsers. So we need a way to transform this for browser support. And that's where LightningCSS comes in as a preprocessor and parser for CSS. So let's see how to install LightningCSS. Let's open up a new tab and go to lightningcss.dev. This is the website. You can look at the docs. Let's make it a bit bigger, right? And if we scroll down in the getting started, we can see there is a section called with Vite. And this is how you use it with Vite. So you install it, pnpm add -d lightning-css. Then you import it in your Vite config. On the top, let's import browser list and lightning-css. And then you can override the CSS transformer of Vite inside your config. And you can also override the minifier used in the build process. Let's save it up. It does work with browser lists, so that's what we are importing here as well. This is, if you're not familiar with it, this is where you can define a string that matches the browsers you want support. So this means everything that got more usage than 0.25% will be supported. But you can change this depending on your project. So this will transform all CSS code to a valid and running code in this browser. For browser list to work, we have to install it as well. So let's do that. pnpm add -d browser list. And now we can close up the Vite config and run our dev server. Let's reload the page one time. And you can see that LightningCSS is complaining about the custom media rule, which it does apparently not know. So let's have a look how we can fix that. So to use some feature flags that are not in the CSS standard right now, you need to add special options in your Vite config in the Lightning CSS. There are our targets, but you can also add drafts and set up like some features that you do want to use that are not common in CSS right now. So this is custom media true. And now you can see our site is red again. We can use our media query MD to make it a beautiful green. And if we change the width of our browser now, the website will shrink and change to the color green. Nice. That's not pretty, but it's very nice to have. So let's remove the ugly colors. But now you can use custom media queries. And if we, let's keep it one time. If we look at the build in our index CSS file, find viewport, we cannot find it because we have to use add media. And you can see now our media queries are transformed to standard media queries, like you would normally write them. But you have the ability to have variables that you can change at one place in your code base, and it will transform to standard media queries. Very nice. So there you have it. This is how you integrate Vite into Kirby, and you can use modern CSS features and hot module reloading in your Kirby workflow. I hope you learned a lot in this video and you're using Vite.js going forward, because it does really improve the developer experience in your front end. What tools do you use to develop your Kirby website's front end? Or do you go the route for no build tools at all? If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to subscribe and like this video, and we'll see you next time. Bye!